When you think of MG, you probably think of small, sporty, convertible cars, things such as the MGB, the MG Midget, the F or TF. If you're from a certain age, you probably remember the hot hatchbacks and hot saloons from the early 90s through to the 2000s. MG is a very different company these days though. It's a company looking to the future. And so, we have got here their first electric estate, the MG5. In fact, it's the UK's very first electric estate. The MG5 is a good looking vehicle. If you're a fan of MG's current design language, however, on its range of cars, this may not be to your liking, as it does look vastly different to any other MG vehicle currently on sale. MG has a parent company in Shanghai Automotive Industry Corporation, SAIC for short, and they have several other brands underneath that automotive umbrella. One of those brands is Row A or Row V, and the MG5 gets its looks and tech from one of their cars, the i5. So first things first, let's start off with the accessibility underneath the bonnet, and opening the bonnet on the MG5 EV couldn't be simpler. Open the door on the driver's side, little flap here, pull that, and that is the bonnet released. To open the bonnet on it, you just pull underneath here, little flap, lift up, and it's held up using quite an old-fashioned little bonnet prop. Now of course, because this is an electric car, we've got to use correct terminology for it. Now this, on a normal electric car, would be the fruit or the frunk. Personally, I don't see any fruit underneath this. There's no apples, there's no bananas, and there's no oranges. In fact, there's not a lot of anything really, because it's just all plastic. Of course, you've got things such as your little washer fluid, brake fluid, sorry, no, that's coolant, and brake fluid just up here. And you've also got a 12-volt battery for your normal ancillaries such as the radio and just little things like that. But really, there's not a lot to see underneath here, to be perfectly honest. Whilst we're around here at the front then, let's just discuss the charging ports and all things charging on it basically. So, charging port on this, around the front, very simple, just push it in, like that, push in the right place, you'll get it right. On top you've got a Type 2 charger, and underneath you've got CCS. Of course, CCS uses both little sockets on it. In terms of charging times, if you use your standard 3-pin socket, that's going to take you about 18.5 hours from flat. A 7 kilowatt battery charger is going to take about 8.5 hours, that's to 100%. 50 kilowatt charger, 0 to 80%, that's about 50 minutes. And a 100 kilowatt fast charger, that's going to take around 40 minutes to charge up your car to 80%. Not bad really when you think about it. As for the lights, if you have a look, we have LED daytime running lights on it as standard from 2011 on all cars. You've also got little projector lights, plus these nice little details in here. It's quite nicely styled on this actually, I think. Inside the car, you get quite an annoying bong, and that's because the key is in here. And on this particular model, the exclusive, you get keyless entry, which is rather nice. But when you're actually in the car, you're greeted with quite a lot of buttons in here. It's not the most buttons I've ever seen in a car, but it's still quite a lot. So let's just get our head around it, shall we? On this side, you've got your little door lock and unlock. You've got electric windows all round. On this particular model, being top of the range model, you get one touch on all of the windows all around the car. The Excite, which is the lower level spec on this particular car, you only get one touch on the driver's door, just so we're clear. In terms of on the little sort of steering column, you've got your wipers, standard usual controls, pretty familiar to most of us, indicators and lights on here. Down here, this is your cruise control system, which may look rather familiar to fans of a certain German brand. In terms of the steering wheel, you're greeted with a nice little leather look, and it is actually quite nice to touch and feel, and all that obviously being the thing you can feel whilst you're driving, that's nice. In terms of all the buttons on here, you're greeted with the sort of standard things. You've got your little volume up, volume down, answer calls. You get the picture. In terms of just down here, you've got your little door mirror adjustment, standard sort of little rounded thing which you can move around, little stalk. Think of it a bit like a games console one. Got your light height adjustment, and you've got your start stop button, because of course keyless entry, you get that. If I press it, turns the car on. You get a nice little dial sweep just to show everything is working, and a bong as well to tell you it's all working and ready to go. In terms of the center console then, we have got quite a bit. We've got an 8-inch touchscreen, which is rather nice. When it comes on, we'll go into a little bit more about that. Now that the screen is on, it does take a couple of seconds, but it's not too long. You're not waiting forever. You've got quite a lot of things on it. You've got your little music item thing here, just Bluetooth. You've got your navigation, and you've got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. As I just said, this car does get sat-nav as standard. Also, if you put it into reverse, it does beep at you again. There's a lot of beeps with this car. You get a rear reversing camera. Rather nice. The screen is very clear. You get obviously little lines on it which mark it up rather nicely. Take it out so it doesn't roll away anywhere. And there we go. Whilst I speak about this, this is actually your little gear stick as such. It's a little sort of twisty dial, as it were. It's rather nice, rather chic, rather cool. Being electric, you've only got 3 options. You've got park and neutral. You've got drive, reverse. It's really rather simple. In terms of all these other little things down here, you've got a 12-volt socket, you've got a little USB you can connect Android Auto and Apple CarPlay through, and a little charging socket as well. You've also got air conditioning, obviously heated little windows, and obviously you can control your fan speed using this one just here. In terms of up here being the exclusive model, you do get heated seats as well. Let's move on to storage in here, shall we? Just down here you've got a rather large door pocket. In here is currently a phone mount, so that's good. Plenty of space, big enough to hold a 500ml bottle. You've got 2 rather large cup holders just down here, and of course they do step down as well to fit in with the styling. That's rather good. You might be able to keep like a little can of energy drink in there as well if you're lucky. Parking brake just down here. Another little storage for possibly a phone, something like that in there. And obviously you've got storage under here, quite a large space, keep many things in it. Obviously we can't talk about the interior storage without talking about the glove box, so let's open it up. It's rather big, there's no fuse boxes in the way unlike certain other vehicles. Peugeot 208, I'm looking at you. But yeah, it's rather good. And of course in here you've got your little MG pamphlet book. Very good. Also, just whilst we're here, speakers. Because this is top of the range, you get 6 speakers all around. Little tweeters up here, components down here, and obviously 2 in the back. Perfect. In the back, it's quite spacious. You've got quite a lot of leg room and knee room. It's rather nice. Headroom. Yeah, again, there's quite a lot. I'm 6'1", fit rather nicely in here. Of course, being electric, you will notice the floor is 100% flat. There's no tunnel for your exhaust, which is rather nice. In the back as well, being the exclusive model, you get 2 extra USBs. They're just located down here on the central armrest, little column, whatever you want to call it. Obviously in the back, as I've mentioned already, you get electric windows. They're one touch in this. You get, again, quite a large door bin, which I think is actually not the best to access. I mean, I've put my hand in, it's a bit stuck at the minute, so there we go. In terms of actually sitting in here, it's rather nice. The seats are quite squishy, they're rather comfortable, and they sort of hug around you, which is quite nice. They're obviously not buckets, but they do a good enough job. Of course, these seats all round are faux leather, so it gives a little bit extra comfort there as well. In terms of sort of little storage of the back, we have a look. You get an armrest, and you get 2 little cup holders here as well. Wonderful. We've explored the back of the MG5. Let's have a look in the boot. As you can see, looking at the boot, rather stylish rear end on this car, and you've also got rear parking sensors as well. Of course, body colour, perfect. As mentioned already, you do have that rear reversing camera, and that is located just down here, tucked away quite nicely out of sight, especially from this angle. In terms of rear visibility, it's quite restricted on this car, but it's a good job that you do actually have that rear reversing camera. In terms of the boot, all manual, there's no real buttons you can press to open it, but inside here it's actually quite a large space. You've got a bit of a load lip as well, and you've got a little warning triangle located just down here right at the front, which is easy to access when you need it. The only unfortunate thing about it is you haven't got really anywhere to keep your charging cables. You've got a little space just down the side here, which could be useful for carrying pretty much anything really, but it's being used to carry the charging cables on. And of course, down here behind all this stuff, you got this little bag, and that just has to sit here, which takes up more space in your boot. That's maybe not such a good thing about this car, but there we go. In terms of the little facilities in here, you've got a little boot light, you've got quite a large little space down here, and of course underneath the boot floor you don't get a full spare wheel as such, but you can get a space saver as an option. But as standard, cars come with a little tyre inflator kit, so useful. One useful feature about the boot is of course the fact that the boot lid does have two little grab handles just here. Pull it down, it shuts rather nicely, rather smoothly. In fact, it's perfect. Now I've had a good look around the MG5, let's take it for a drive. Welcome viewers aboard the MG5 EV. This is the very first electric car I've driven on the road. Sure, I've driven electric go-karts, electric quad bikes, and if you watched my Simply Electric video at Beaulieu, you'll have seen I rode an electric bicycle there. But this is the very first electric vehicle I've ever driven. And for this opportunity, I'd like to thank MG Motor for allowing me to actually drive the car. And of course, to Joseph Lloyd, who got this car on loan for a week, and he's allowed to, well, he's allowed me to be on the insurance on it as well. He asked for it. So thank you very much to him. Of course, if you haven't already, check out his YouTube channel, Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. Right, details about the car then. So, the battery on this is a 52.5 kilowatt hour battery, and the motor on it produces 156 brake horsepower. It's quite quick. In terms of actual driving modes on it, you've got three of them. I mentioned that earlier on, but the three modes you've got are Eco, Normal and Sport. Sport, of course, being the quickest, it firms up your steering and obviously quickens your throttle response. We're in Eco mode at the minute and it takes off pretty quickly, so I can't imagine what it'd be like in Sport mode. We'll try that out in a moment. So, what does 156 horsepower actually give you? Well, in this it gives you 0 to 62 in 7.7 seconds. That's not exactly slow. My Fiat Panda will do it in 9.5 seconds, and again, that's not a slow car, so really for a family estate, pretty quick. And of course, with that, your top speed is 115 miles an hour. Not that you'll be doing that on a public road, of course. In terms of your braking then, seeing as we are now off the main road and slowing down, you've got three regenerative braking modes. Your 1, which is your least powerful, 2, which is obviously medium, and 3, which gives you the most regenerative braking power. It's rather useful. We're in mode 3 at the minute, and it's pretty much brought it to a standstill by this junction. In terms of a noise, it makes quite a fun little space age futuristic whine. I quite like this actually, it's good fun. The WLTP range on this car is 214 miles, which is plenty basically. It'll get you everywhere pretty much for a week, as long as you're not obviously going up to the north of England or Scotland from the south, like I might be. Not anytime soon. Of course, when you're driving in the city, your range will go up, and it will go up to 276 miles. So again, that's even better. The range is not bad at all in this car. So, let's move on then to how it drives. Well, steering, responsive. In terms of when you put your foot down, it is very responsive. I'm currently in Eco mode, and it just goes. It just goes. Sport mode, just gave it a little play around, and yeah, if it goes in Eco mode, it's really going to go in sports mode. So with this acceleration then, what do you get in terms of cost? Well, cost-wise on this car, £25,095. That will get you the base model Excite model, although base model shouldn't describe it really, it is quite still highly spec'd. And this particular model here I'm driving, the Exclusive, this particular one is 28,500 miles, this particular model we got on test here today, but standard price of these is £27,500.
That's...
For this cost, of course, you also get a very competitive 7-year warranty. So in terms of rivals then of the MG5 EV, there are no rivals really. Its closest rival is actually another MG Group car, and that is the MG ZS EV, but even so, it's about £1,000 more, it gives you less range, and the boot is actually smaller on that. The next nearest rival will be something like the Vauxhall Corsa E, but again, it's a lot smaller, it's more expensive, and you get less range. So really, in terms of practical electric vehicle, buy this. It's really good. If you're looking at a internal combustion engine equivalent to this, think something along the lines of the Ford Focus Estate or the Seat Leon Estate, because they're roughly the same sort of price, and obviously petrol engine as well. But in terms of an electric version or an electric equivalent, there isn't really one for this car. It's rather unique. Right, suspension, it's very comfortable, brakes are very sharp. What more could you ask for? Anyway, I think we should now pull over and round this review off. So, to sum up the MG5 then, okay, the bongs on the interior do get quite annoying after a little while, but in terms of a car and how a car functions, it's very good. It's super practical, it's got good range, it's a very good price as well for an electric vehicle, and the thing is, there's not really anything that comes close to it. There's nothing really to rival it other than one of MG's own other cars. In terms of other rivals, we've already mentioned, the Vauxhall Corsa E, it's smaller, it's more expensive, and it's got less range than this. So in terms of, you know, one to buy, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Anyway, I think that about wraps up our review on the MG5. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed this particular video. If you have, don't forget to leave a like, comment down below, let me know what are your favourite features on the MG5. And of course, if you want to see more car-based content, feel free to subscribe, because there's plenty more of it coming. Anyway, that's it from me for this week, and I shall see you in the next video. So until then, farewell.